Joint pain is such a common problem that all orthopedic surgeons, including undergraduate, have to encounter it for daily patient basis. Now, before going in details how to approach a joint pain, you should know about some important criteria for diagnosis a joint pathology, and you have to know some guideline along with some anatomical basic knowledge along with some physics that will help you for diagnosis, management, as well as the further recent advance of the treatment protocol. Now, all synovial joint has a articular cartilage which is formed by hyaline cartilage, and all the synovial joint has a synovium along with capsule. Now, capsule is a very thick structure which helps as a protector as well as it also stabilize the joint. Now, the articular cartilage or hyaline cartilage, if we take a cross section, we can see that there is 5 zone like superficial zone, transitional zone, then deep zone. After this deep zone there is a tight mark or thick subchondral type of bone. Then just below there is a thick original subchondral bone. Then the cancellous bone started. Now, in the articular surface, this articular cartilage full of chondrocytes. Among them, in this area, the chondrocytes are vertically placed, but in the superficial region, it is parallelly placed or transversely placed. Now, this articular surface is actually avascular and it diffused by the synovial fluid over this area. Now, this synovial fluid has two important roles along with this articular area. This articular area, this is very important, it's called tide mark. Now, if there is any cut injury or any injury over here, that will heal by only fibrous tissue. But if this cut extend up to this tide mark, then that will not going to heal. And if the stepping is more than 2 millimeter, because this length from this area up to this area is 2 millimeter. Now, if there is any fracture, then it displaces and it cross and this 2 millimeter, then that will never going to heal. This is the anatomical explanation why we are not accepting articular incongruity during reduction or any fracture fixation principle, because if there is stepping more than 2 millimeter, then this the superficial and transverse zone will cannot come in contact. So if it is the fracture fragment extend up to extend from this superficial and transverse zone and reach to this zone, that will not heal. So 2 millimeter stepping is the criteria, and you must not increase this stepping. And the fluid or synovial fluid acts as a lubricant, and this lubrication has some hydrodynamic property, some elastrohydrodynamic property, some translation form of hydrodynamic property by boundary lubrication, and some fluid field lubrication. These are the biomechanical mode of joint lubrication. That means this fluid has some squeezing effect that will give a Pascal law principle, and along with in this articular zone has a elasticity, As a result, combined effect of this fluid and this elastic effect, it has a elastodynamic effect, and that will helps to decrease the coefficient of friction. And for hyaline cartilage, on hyaline cartilage actually there is no friction, near about 0.01%, so there is no friction. This is the best loop bearing surface all over the world. It is God gifted. Okay, now as age increase, or as any type of fracture or joint stepping is occur, then this healing process can damage, and this joint lubrication will not occur. As a result, the joint, due to joint motion, there is a chance of wear and tear of that joint. As a result, that going to fail, and due to failure in this joint, there is some articular cartilage along with the some fibrocartilaginous structure is called meniscus, that will hamper, and that can cause the subchondral cyst, and that can cause subchondral sclerosis due to huge weight bearing. And due to this this articular damage, the subchondral nerve will get irritated. To cover the nerve ending, the bone try to overgrowth over the nerve ending. As a result, that makes a osteophyte, and when this osteophyte size increase, it can cause loose body. And subchondral cyst is the specific for osteoarthrosis. That means due to any stepping, the joint fluid due to pressure it will come into this subchondral area, and due to huge blood supply there is a subchondral cyst. So joint space reduction is the first for osteoarthrosis, second subchondral sclerosis, then subchondral cyst. This is the subchondral cyst, this is the subchondral cyst, and osteophytes. These are the four diagnostic criteria to know this is a case of osteoarthrosis. And why I am talking about osteoarthrosis, it is not a infection, it is a inflammatory type of procedure, so I call this as a osteoarthrosis. Okay, this is the new terminology. Now one by one I try to clear your knowledge about how you approach for every big joint pain, and how you come to your diagnosis very easily, and what are the easy steps that will help you in the treatment protocol. And last I will discuss about some small joint pain. Most common pain, joint pain, is knee pain. If we see that a pain over the lateral aspect, most commonly young patient, that is due to lateral collateral ligament injury or lateral cartilaginous injury. Or if there is pain from along the iliotibial tract, and the pain more tenderness over the gaudy tubercle, then it is called iliotibial band syndrome. Then if the pain over this anterior aspect, then it seems to be anterocruciate ligament injury or posterior cruciate ligament injury, that may be associated with posterior pain. And this whole anterior aspect pain around the patella is also the first sign of osteoarthritis or arthrosis or articular cartilage damage. Now back of the knee, if the pain is occurred, is called due to Becker cyst or hamstring tendon injury. If over this tibial tuberosity in the young age group, this is occur from Osgood-Schlatter disease. This is one type of osteochondritis. Due to osteochondritis, there is fragmentation of the bone and huge tenderness with the swelling. That pain will be generally bilateral. And if pain just over this ligamentum patelli, this is due to patellate pain syndrome or jumper's knee also. Then if pain over this medial aspect, then you can think about medial meniscus injury or medial ligament injury or collateral ligaments pain. Okay, now there is some tendonitis like Bas pes enseignas tendonitis is over the hockey stick insertion of the gracilis semitendinosus and semimembranosus. And if this is over the tibial tuberosity due tendonitis called patellar tendonitis. Then also we can found tendonitis over this knee area. Now there is most common there are the 10 to 12 bursa around the knee. and if the prepatellar bursa is occurred, is called prepatellar bursitis. If it is infrapatellar, this is called infrapatellar bursitis, is also called housemaid knee. Okay, so these are the common concept about any knee pain. And for osteoarthritis, most commonly medial joint line will be tender, and sometimes you can see a patient of young age used to came with huge tenderness over this insertion area. This is called enthenitis. Enthenitis means inflammation of the insertion of the tendon. It's called enthenitis. Pes ancillary tendonitis is the most common tendonitis which you will get in this day-to-day practice. Now, if joint most common big joint is knee joint, which is very superficial, and due to sports injury there is chance of ligament injury. There is two type of ligament, one is cruciate ligament and one is medial and lateral collateral ligament. Now it makes a balance over the knee, which helps for various movement over this knee joint. Now if any due to laxity of injury of this any of this ligament, it can cause internal derangement of knee or joint laxity. It not only it generally associated with the meniscus injury. Why? Meniscus is a washer like structure within the joint. It helps as a grooming effect of the femoral condyle, along with it helps in stability, along with it helps in to prevent damage over the joint. Okay, so any injury impact can occur in the medial meniscus mostly because it is attached with the medial collateral ligament, and lateral collateral ligament generally least common injury. But due to anterior cruciate ligament injury is the most common knee injury, and mode of action is flex rotation in loaded tibia. Flexion rotation in the loaded tibia in the most common cause of anterior cruciate ligament injury. This anterior cruciate ligament is generally associated with medial collateral ligament injury and medial meniscus injury. Along with these three injury is called O'Donoghue unhappy triad. Okay, now how you diagnose a case of medial meniscus injury? You will flex the knee and you will try to do external rotation and you will extend the knee. If there is any pinching over this knee, this is called McMurray test. If you on external rotation, if there is any pain, then it seems to be medial meniscus injury. If you do internal rotation, if there is any pain, if this is called lateral meniscus injury. Now this is very important for postgraduate student, but just know the name McMurray test. But this McMurray test is not confirmatory. It will just give you a assumption. You have to diagnose it by MRI. MRI is a special type of investigation. I will show you later. Then Latchman test, 30-degree flexion. You will just move this tibia along by resting of the femur. This is called Latchman test. This is the most confirmatory test and most approachable test, both for in acute trauma or for late trauma. It signifies the anterior cruciate ligament injury with anterolateral instability. Now this is called pivot shift test. This is very tough test. I must demonstrate during your bedside clinic, but just know the name. Pivot shift test is very specific for anterolateral collateral instability and due to anterior collateral ligament injury. Now also is called a reverse pivot shift test. No need to mug up this. It is for PCL, but just know. And one is anterior drawer test, one is posterior drawer test. Anterior drawer test means just draw the tibia over this flex knee and of the tibia. If this laxity more than 5 mm, then grade 1. If more than 10 mm, then grade 2. If more than 15 mm, grade 3. It is a observational bias maybe occur, but you have to check it is severe, and you have to compare with always with the normal, because there is some generalized ligament laxity also. So this is anterior drawer test, and if we do posterior drawer test, this is called PCL injury, and this is called dial test. On extension, if you extend or extend rotate the foot, that can cause pain over the posterolateral cornu. This is signifies the posterolateral corneal or complex injury. This is a very one মানে MCQ has come regarding posterolateral corneal injury. It is detected by dial test. Next, varus stress or valgus stress. In 30 reflection, if you do varus stress, then it signifies that the pain over this medial, that means medial collateral ligament injury. If you stress over the lateral aspect, and sorry, you will push it from the medial aspect, then it can open on the lateral aspect, that can cause valgus stress injury. It occurs due to lateral collateral ligament injury. Okay, so all are the clinical assumption you have to notice during your clinical examination, but you must confirm it by MRI. But after before going to MRI and a radiological examination, we used to get some knee fusion case. If it is following a acute trauma, then you can take it traumatic knee fusion. If it is idiopathic, this is called idiopathic knee fusion. Or if it is due to any reactive or any infective cause like TB or recurrent synovitis, or after reactive arthritis, there is chance of fluid collection over this area and with hypertrophic synovium. How you know hypertrophic synovium? By putting your thumb over this medial aspect and you just squeeze it over there, you can feel a duffy feeling. This is called a hypertrophic synovium. Now if for small effusion, you can squeeze over the suprapatellar pouch and you can do a patellar tap. That is significant for small knee effusion to diagnose. It's called patellar tap. Sorry. And if there is huge knee effusion, then you cannot see this gutter. We will see the fullness over the suprapatellar area. Now how you approach? If you see this, you can take the history. If it is traumatic, then you think that it is blood, so it is called hemarthrosis. If it is due to old osteoarthritis along with some repeated strain or a history of fever, then you have to think about infection or any osteoarthritis acute exacerbation case. Now any knee joint injury not completed if you do not see the popliteal region. You have to palpate this popliteal triangle to exclude any type of Becker cyst or any pseudoaneurysm over this area, or any bursa or any semitendinous bursa, semimembranosus bursa, or any swelling, any type of swelling. So you have to check the popliteal region always, because generally that can be missed, but in your private practice, never miss it. Now if if mind doesn't know, I cannot see. This is a dictum. That means if you don't know what is normal, then you cannot understand what is abnormal. See, in your whole life you will learn, you will be faced with multiple problem, and believe me, human body is such a beautiful structure and such a complicated structure as well. For your whole life is not enough to know a particular disease with is all manifestation, because in your very old age you may see a abnormal case, and that is called case report. Then you will report this case for your medical council or any journal. That means you have, how do know this is abnormal? You have to know the normal. So this is the normal skygram, is skeletally mature, because there is no physis. Skeletally mature child with a normal joint space here. This is the two condyle. This is lateral condyle. How you know? This is fibula, so it is lateral. Now this is this is the notch where the popliteal ligament is used to get attached, and this is the patella superimposed view, and this is intercondylar notch, and this two tibial spine, and this is the physeal scar, and this is the fibular head, and on the lateral view, this is the patella, and as this is the articular surface is smooth, so it has no injury, and the space is normal, and as this is the two condyle, and on the posterior aspect there is a gap, so this cortex is extend up to this, there is no in between, there is a gap. So this is the normal line or normal superimposition of the cortex. Okay, this is usually found, this is not a oscillatory lesion. You have to know that. And why I used to tell, because when you are putting any plate, you must not put any screw over this. You have to put your last screw over maximum this area, otherwise you can invert the joint. Okay, and there is a small tubercle, this is called adductor tubercle. Okay, and this is the normal corticomedullary differentiation. And on the lateral view, this is called tibial plateau slope. This is 3-degree posterior slope, and this is a small bone over this is called fibula. It is the sesamoid bone over the lateral gastrocnemius end. Okay, most commonly found in the lateral head of the gastrocnemius, called fibula. This is not a loose body. Okay, and this is the fibula, you can quite understand. This is called skyline view. Okay, this is the normal joint space. And why skyline view on take, see, this is that troglial, lateral troglial ridge and medial troglial ridge, and this is the end of this, and the summit of this ridge is coincide. That means the patella is not subluxated. In habitual distortion of patella or patella subluxation, you have to check this in 90-degree flexion, and more than 90-degree flexion, you will see the X-ray that patella is not subluxated. Skyline view. Now, can anyone tell me why this is gap? This is not a gap. Actually, this is the radio lucent area caused by the both articular cartilage over this patella, and articular cartilage over, see, this is the shadow. Okay, this is the articular cartilage shadow. You can you appreciate this? And this is the articular shadow. So I think now you can understand what are the other cause of. And see, this is the normal bony trabeculae. It usually found in young patient. Okay, now something about MRI. We are not radiologist, but still you have to know some basic knowledge about MRI, otherwise you cannot understand what is pathology. See, this is the patella, this is the femoral and as it will take multiple cuts in coronal plane, and and it is this is coronal plane, this is sagittal plane, this is the sciatic nerve, and this is the anterior cruciate ligament. Can you appreciate this? This is anterior cruciate ligament. It take origin from the tibial plateau, then it get insertion over the medial aspect of the lateral condyle above the resident ridge. Resident ridge is a bony ridge, and that after that the anatomical attachment of the two fiber, anterolateral fiber and posteromedial fiber of the anterocruciate ligament. Now this anterocruciate ligament is supplied by medial genicular artery. Okay, now this comma shaped is called posterior cruciate ligament. Can we appreciate this? Posterior cruciate ligament. And this is this black structure signifies this in the ligament. Now, can you appreciate this black structure? This is called medial collateral ligament. And can you appreciate this black structure? This is called lateral collateral ligament. So I think this is this joint is normal, and this is the lateral meniscus, and this is the medial meniscus, and this is triangular area is called medial meniscus. This is the anterior part of the lateral meniscus. Okay, now it is axial cut. In axial cut, you can easily understand this is the artery, this is the lumen of the artery, and this is the vein, and this is the nerve. Okay, and this is the femoral condyle, and this is the patella, and they are the semiteed, tendinosus, seminosus, and muscle. Now just see, this is a normal fat structure around the vessel and nerve. That means that nerve and vessel is normal. If there is any invasion of any tumor and this normal white perivascular fat structure is not seen, that means this nerve and vessel is involved. Okay, Now, if there is any knee effusion and you are and it prevent flexion and it can cause pain, restriction of the movement, you can go for aseptic arthrocentesis. That means you have to dressing and draping, you have to use gloves and proper method. Outer lateral aspect of the patellar dome, you can put a wide bore needle 18 gauge, then you can draw with a 50-60 stitching, or you can do it on ultrasonography guided, but in your day-to-day practice you can do it very easily. In traumatic case you can see the blood, or in non-traumatic case you can see the stroke like fluid. If you get any flake, then you must or you can pass, you must suspect this septic arthritis along with the toxic loop. If it is only structural fluid, no and nothing, no sign of infection, that is osteoarthrosis or reactive arthrosis. And if for traumatic fracture or traumatic knee erosion, if you see this blood has some mutton fat like appearance, you will put this one drop of blood over the gloves and you will see there is any mutton fat like appearance, that means there is a metaphyseal fracture. So you can suspect there is a fracture, so you have to put a slab or something else, you have to for scan also. So this is the normally findings. You have to know after this effusion drainage you must put a 3-layer cotton and roller bandage, and crepe bandage is very good. This is called Robert Jones bandage to prevent the re-effusion. Okay, and you allow the patient for ankle pump, otherwise that can cause swelling. And if you can do it with a safe proper aseptic measure, there it will be very better, because it can cause infection, or it can invade infection also. And for any knee hemarthrosis or knee effusion in a child who has no history of trauma, do not attempt joint aspiration first. You have to exclude any hemophilia, otherwise you can fall in soup. Now, ankle pain. Ankle pain is very easy to diagnose, because if you know the anatomical insertion, you can diagnose maximum case. See, this is the with very confident you can see this is the Achilles tendon. If the pain over this junction, this is called Achilles tendon insertion bursitis or insertor tendonitis. If it is associated with swelling, this is called Högland deformity. Högland deformity. This is associated with equinus deformity. And if there is any microtear of this tendon, this is called peritendonitis, tenderness over this area. If that pain over this particular region of the middle aspect of the calcaneum, this is called plantar fasciitis, huge tenderness. And if there is tenderness over the insertion of the navicular bone, this is called in child we can tell it accessory navicular, or in case of adult you can think about tibialis posterior tendon dysfunction. Tibialis posterior tendon dysfunction. What happened? The tibialis posterior tendon is attached with the navicular, and due to tendonitis, then stretching along with subluxation joint as per the grading, it can cause the adult onset pes planus. Pes planus means loss of this middle arch. So it is called tibialis posterior tendon dysfunction. But most common stage it will come in tendonitis stage, the huge tenderness over this area. Now, if there is pain over this area in the Lisfranc joint just area, and for after prolonged walking or sudden walking for long duration, that you suspect this is stress fracture. If pain over this area, you can suspect about metatarsalgia. If the deformity over this joint and pain over this joint, you can think about the bunion or gout. This is the first joint and most common joint in gout. This is a misconception over our all resident and even on our common people, that if there is a pain over the hand and joint, uric acid will increase, you have to take anti-uric acid drug. No. If this joint is involved fast, and this is along with the uric acid level is sky high, like more than 10, then you have to start with the recommendation of medicine guideline. Then you will start febucetate and allopurinol, or in acute case you don't give allopurinol, it can precipitate also. So But gout is very rare disease, generally not occur, and only one radiological finding along supported gout is G sign, subchondral punch-out lesion over on the bone in the radiological finding is called G sign. And sometimes you can see a chalk-like structure which is deposited over the joint is called topai. This is the most common finding in topai. Maybe confused with ganglion or rheumatoid foot and many things. Okay, and if there is with a deformity, then it seems to be rheumatoid arthritis in this joint. And if there is a pain over and this ankle with old fracture, then you think for secondary arthritis. Now if you can see any tenderness over the anterolateral aspect after a ankle injury, then you will think for anterolateral talofibular ligament sprain is the most common sprain. If you think that tenderness over the medial deltoid ligament, you can think about deltoid ligament sprain. Along with if there is any tenderness over the tibialis anterior, you can think of tibialis anterior tendonitis. Now if any hooking effect or any pain over this tip of the all phalanx is called hemato or maletto. Now or due to clawto. Now if there is any pain over this anterolateral aspect over this is called sinus tarsi syndrome, because if the pain over see, this is the medial malleolus, and now but just below the medial malleolus what will pass is tibialis posterior tendon, then with the neurovascular structure along with the tibialis tibial nerve will pass. If there is any impingement over this area, this is called tarsal tunnel syndrome. But same thing it occur in the anterolateral aspect is also called sinus tarsi syndrome. This is very rare actually. But you have to think about child also. If there is any tenderness over this calcaneum for and it is bilateral due to severe exertion, you can think for severe disease, one type of osteochondritis. In adult also, if you can see in child in puberty, if pain over this metatarsal area, and we see in the X-ray fragmentation is called Frazen syndrome, is also called a osteochondritis of metatarsal head or neck. Okay, and if pain over this fifth metatarsal base due to fracture, this is called Jones fracture, or if due to osteochondritis is called East-Lane disease. East-Lane disease, osteochondritis of fifth metatarsal base. Okay, and osteochondritis of the metatarsal head is called Freiberg disease. Freiberg disease. Now, how you approach to this? You go to the guideline: hip plantar, midfoot, posterior. Hip plantar, then what type of pain? It is sharp pain, or burning or tingling pain. If it tingling pain, you think for neural entrapment or neuroma. If it is sharp pain, then you have to think about the where is the pain found. If it over the special area of the calcaneum, then it seems to be plantar fasciitis. If on the heel pad, it can cause the heel pad syndrome. This is most notorious. It is not a as easy to treat like plantar fasciitis, because this heel pad pain may suffer patient generally young female, obese female, and they will suffer for day by day, and only physiotherapy is enough. Then if you can see the midfoot, you have to think about insertion tendonitis like peroneal tendinopathy or tarsal tunnel syndrome, or if any neural entrapment, then you can see the tarsal tunnel syndrome I already discussed. Then posterior again, if it is child, you are thinking of calcaneum pain. This is called severe disease, calcaneum apophysitis. Only bed rest is sufficient, and on X-ray you will see the sclerosis over the calcaneum tuberosity. On in adult, you have already discussed about the Achilles tendinopathy and Haglund deformity. Okay. Now, shoulder joint. Shoulder joint is such a joint with a huge range of motion with a least stability, because it is just a ball, golf ball along with some spot like this, and golf ball seems to be the femoral head, and sorry, humerus head, and glenoid seems to be the small rest of part over the golf ball. Now the stability is less, where the mobility is high. Just opposite is hip joint. Stability is high, mobility is less. Now the pain over the shoulder is most commonly if hand if patient try to extend his shoulder, then if there is sharp pain, then you think for impingement syndrome. If pain all over this movement is called adhesive capsulitis, also called frozen shoulder. If you can see a sharp pain over the acromioclavicular joint, is called acromioclavicular sprain. Then it pain some also, and due to some instability or dislocation, previous dislocation of this shoulder joint, also coming from the old malformated clavicle fracture also. Now along with, you can see some disease like avascular necrosis, aneuplastic disease, or thoracic outlet syndrome, CRPS, myofascial pain, and reticulopathy, and so on. But most commonly pain over the shoulder joint is due to adhesive capsulitis. The most common disease associated with the diabetes mellitus, thyroid disease, gout, pseudogout, and myocardial infarction, head injury, pulmonary tuberculosis, carcinoma of the brain, and so on. But the most common presenting syndrome is impingement type of syndrome, one type of bursitis, synovitis, and the adhesive capsulitis is nothing but adhesion of the joint space and reduction of the joint space, and squeezing the size of the joint space, which decrease the movement, and mostly interrotation and abduction is restricted. In that case, in the three stage of the adhesive capsulitis, and in the last stage you may need arthroscopical release of the joint, but most effective treatment is intersynovial developmental injection with under GA movement of this joint, and take care if is a chance of fracture over the joint. So adhesive capsulitis can be diagnosed by clinically, and only radiology there is no destruction of the joint, that will be joint will be normal. Now acute now this if there is pain over the abduction, this is called near test positive. If pain internal rotation is called impingement, Hawking sign. If patient cannot hold this arm in extension, patient just drop his hand, this is called rotator cuff tear, this is called drop arm sign. Okay, if patient feel pain over this joint with a belly press, this is called belly press test. If patient will if press over this back, this is called lip top test or Garber test. This is subscapularis tendon injury. If patient will try to abduct his hand with external rotation, and the giveaway sensation that you will just apprehensive, this is called apprehensive. This is the significant test for secondary anterior dislocation. Anterior dislocation is the most common type of dislocation, shoulder dislocation, and this is sharp coracoid type is the most common type of dislocation. In this case, you will see the flattening of the deltoid, and there will be a gap, this is called Salca's sign, and the whole girth of this shoulder girdle will increase, is called Galloway sign. And if we put a ruler over this lateral aspect, it will not touch the acromial because of deltoid health. But if we put a ruler over this lateral aspect, you can touch the acromial. So this is called Hamilton ruler test. This is positive in case of anterior shoulder dislocation. In anterior shoulder dislocation, patient cannot touch his hand over this this opposite hand. This is called Dugas test. If you reduce this, then only patient, he or she can touch his opposite shoulder. It's called Dugas test. If Dugas test is positive, then shoulder is not reduced, is reduced. Sorry. Now on X-ray you can see there will be no fracture, but superimpose of this joint articular surface. See, if the total disarrangement of the articular cartilage contact is no contact, then it is called dislocation. If it is partially take contact, this is called subluxation. But here is this is dislocation, total no contact with this articular surface with this articular surface. Okay, and this is the fossa, this is the glenoid fossa, this is called empty glenoid fossa sign. Okay, and if it is posteriorly dislocated, then it will seems like a light bulb. This is called light bulb sign, is most specific sign for and posterior dislocation of the shoulder, but most common is anterior dislocation. And due to anterior dislocation, there is a chance of anterior labrum injury, is called Bankard lesion. And due to this anterior dislocation, there is a chance of impingement over the glenoid articular cartilage by this anterior part of the glenoid, and this wedge fracture or wedge impingement over this glenoid, over this humerus articular surface is called heel sac sign. I will show it immediately. Now there is two type of reduction. One is Kocher type of reduction. You can do a counter reduction by a towel, and you can pull this head will do external reduction. This is called Kocher method. This is the most common method we used to do is in our PG time. And this is a old technique by putting his leg over this axilla. This is called Hippocrene maneuver. This is obsolete now. This is inhumanic. And if this is if patient is not responding, or patient is coming in the late stage, we can pull it, just patient put this over this and pull a weight over this. This is called Stimson method. This is the indirect technique to reduce. But most commonly, most painless reduction is just try to abduct this hand with slow external rotation, and you will just hold it with traction. This is called zero position of the hand. It will reduce the shoulder joint without any pain, and after that you will do the adduction and internal rotation, and you will got in the middle a clicking sound along with the sudden decrease the pain of that patient. Now after that you must do an radiological X-ray or examination to know there is any fracture or any reduction of this proper reduction of the joint. See, this is the normal glenoid. This is the glenoid, and this is the humeral head, and this is the acromial. This is the clavicular end. This gap is normal. This is acromio-clavicular joint. This is the coracoid process, and this is the glenoid bed. This is the lateral, and this is the medial border. Okay, now on MRI, what I try to say, this is the glenoid labrum. This is the glenoid labrum. This is very small, and see, this is the whole ball. This is called golf ball with a small pin. Now this is an axial cut also. You can see this the glenoid. This is the whole humeral head. Okay, and this is the normal joint space. You can see if there is any tear over this area, this seems to be supraspinatus tendonitis or rotary cup tear. Okay, now I already discuss it. If the pain over this area, due to bursa, then this is called subacromial bursitis. If the tenderness over this area, this is called acromioclavicular arthritis. If there is any impingement, and this is called painful arc syndrome, pain will increase up early 70 degree, and after that up to 20 degree very painful, then there will be no pain. This is called painful arc syndrome. This is most commonly found in impingement syndrome, and that will subside with 9 to 6 months automatically. And if the patient cannot hold this with abduction of the arm, this can cause rotary cup tear or tendonitis also. So these are the all total about this. And how you manage a case of this impingement syndrome or iris capsulate, you can put a depometal over the posterior aspect of this shoulder joint, and you must take aseptic precaution. Do not do this with your hand. You have to use your gloves and with a no-touch technique I taught you in our OPD, and do not touch anything with your unsterile thing. Okay, and sometimes you can do arthroscopy. This is the arthroscopy port over there, and you can see the joint and you can debride this. Okay, this is best for the post image phase, but you have to know that arthroscopical debridement may be done. But this is the most common technique, is called intersynovial depometrol with local anesthesia. It helps in adhesive vasculitis or impingement test. Okay, now wrist is one of the most common injury in the adult, and some inflammatory procedure, like if you think this is the tenderness over this aorta pollicis longus or external pollicis brevis tendon, this is called decurvent tendonitis. If there is any pain over and swelling, painless swelling or painful swelling over the cystic swelling over this joint, this is called ganglion, dorsal ganglion. And if size is more than a marble size, then you have to go for excision. Do not do aspiration, it will recur. Now if there is any fracture over or tenderness over this metatarsal neck, this is called boxer fracture. One functional cast is sufficient. Now if there is any tenderness over the base of the thumb, this is called ulnar collateral ligament injury in the thumb, or it is also called gamekeeper thumb. Okay, if there is any pain over the volar aspect of this medial nerve, this is called carpal tunnel syndrome, with tingling sensation of the three finger. If there is triggering of any hand, this is called trigger finger. And all these type of tendonitis can be managed with percutaneous release of this tendon or A1 pulley, or you can put some local depometrol injection, that patient will get rid of this all type of problem. Okay, now TFCC injury is special type of wrist pain that can cause the tenderness over the lateral aspect of the ulnar head, and this is a triangular fibrocartilage ligament. There is no bony contact, and it can damage and it can manage arthroscopically, but result is very poor. But tenderness over this area seems to be TFCC injury, and very problematic condition. Treatment is very difficult. Now there is some deformity, is a congenital deformity most commonly found in the female in the puberty, and with the bowing of the radius with a V-shaped aggregation of the proximal row of the carpal bone. This is called mid-lung deformity. Okay, this is due to the Vickers ligament the problem. This Vickers ligament is a ligament is from radiocarpal ligament, which is not developed properly by the medial part of the physis, and it can cause this type of subluxation. It's called medullary deformity. The treatment is very difficult. It can used by cardiac osteotomy, but generally do not do anything without if patient is not suffering from any problem. And this is the normal X-ray of a skeletally immature child. This is the normal physis. Okay, this is a physeal line. How you know this is not an injury? On the AP view, this continuity is continuous with this. If this is not continuous, then you can stepping these kind of things about the injury. You have to check it on lateral view also, and also clinically also you will be very tender over the area. And this is the all bone, the carpal bone. This is the scaphoid, board shape. This is the lunate. Now here in the adult also there is a special line. See, this is one line. This is the proximal row row carpal bone. This is the distal row of the carpal bone. This big bone is called capitate, and this bone with this hook is called hamate. Now see, there is also a line. Okay, this is called gluteal arch. This gluteal arch, if it is disrupted, then you think that the carpal bone is not properly placed. And can you ever realize why there is 5 to 8 bone? If there is only one bone, what will happen? What will the fate? See, this hand is a very usable thing in our human being, and when the pressure will come through the hand, if the pressure will transfer with this all small bone, that the pressure will disperse easily with multiple fragment. It will prevent any type of big trauma over this big bone. So it is biomechanically to make biomechanical shape. Along with it makes the wrist joint very flexible both from lateral, medial, superficial and circumduction movement. Okay, got this point. Now this is the axis. See, the first bone and the second bone, this this is the second bone. Okay, this second bone, along if we put the second bone, then the pressure will goes to the scaphoid. So if we in scaphoid fracture, in the second bone axial pressure, that can cause pain over the scaphoid fossa. And this third bone, with this big capitulum bone, with capitate bone along with the radius is called the axis of the hand. Okay, this is the axis of the hand. Now if this is lunate. Okay, if this lunate is dislocated, then there will be a gap. This is called Terry Thomas sign. Terry Thomas is a mimic character in the this world, and he has a teeth absent. So this is called Terry Thomas sign. Is found in perilunate dislocation. Okay, now elbow. Elbow is very easy to diagnose. See, if there is any tenderness over the middle condyle, that can cause golfer's elbow. If the tenderness over the lateral condyle is called tennis elbow. And you can easily diagnose a fracture over if there is any hemarthrosis, that can cause fullness of Anconia's triangle, and this significance the hemarthrosis of the elbow. Now if the tendon over this biceps is inflamed, this is called bicep tendonitis. And Yergason test is the test for diagnosis of bicep tendonitis. Yergason test is nothing but forceful flexion extension and the supination pronation of the hand. It will tender is called Yergason test for bicep tendonitis. Now if there is any bursa over this olecrayon, this is called student elbow or student bursitis. Okay, and if there is any pain over just line below the elbow and on the middle aspect, is called cubital tunnel syndrome. This is a peripheral nerve root compression type of injury. Okay, so the elbow is very easy to diagnose. Now one most common emergency in elbow is elbow dislocation. Elbow dislocation is direct posterior, anterolateral, anteromedial. Now due to this dislocation, this is very common in our emergency. How you diagnose? You can diagnose the olecrayon tip along with the triceps tendon, and you can feel the hollowness just below this. And due to the dislocation, this olecrayon triceps will get prominent, and that will be reverse triangle. The medial the lateral condyle, medial condyle, and this will be reverse triangle. Okay, it found in the elbow dislocation. How you reduce it? Do a pressure over this hand, and do a pressure over this arm, and one will put a pressure over the olecrayon, and you have to mark the olecrayon where it is. If it is posterior medially dislocated, then you have to put it to the anteriorly. If it is posterior laterally dislocated, you have to put it in the medially. So olecrayon will give you a guide. How you understand? By putting your thumb. You just put it. It actually needs 3 person to reduce, and that is very easy if you do that. And after reduction, you will just do the pronation and put that patient on a arm pouch bag for 3 weeks. And even for shoulder dislocation, you have to give rest over this joint ligament for 3 weeks. That will help. Do not do any plaster. You can apply ice over this. If you do any mistake to reduce it can cause fracture of this joint. And take care, if it is more than 3 weeks old, do not attempt close. You have to open this. And if it is acute, you can attempt without anesthesia, but ideally, truly speaking, no dislocation must not corrected without anesthesia. But there is some special technique you can do it without anesthesia. I will show you during my emergency duty. Okay, now this is the normal X-ray. This is the middle condyle, this is the lateral condyle, this is the capitulum, this is the trochlea rail, this is the olecrayon fossa, this is the olecrayon bone, this is the coronoid coronoid prominence. This is the radial head, this is the radial fossa, and now this is the typical teardrop sign, true lateral view. And in the pediatric age group there is a physeal line. This is lateral epiphysis, lateral epicondyle, and this is the radial epiphysis. This gap is normal because of physeal cartilage. And just think, this is called Maccullen line. Maccullen line means the center of the capitulum always go through the center of the radial head in every flexion, in every extension. That means there is no disparity in this joint, and this gap will continuous over the whole joint. That means there will be no incongruity or no subluxation of the joint. Okay, now if you can see, there is a special similar type of cartilage over this area and very tenderness on flexion. That means it's a capitulum fracture, and you may find there is a special fracture line, and this olecranon fossa is not properly kept in position. Then you can think about intercondylar fracture. And how we assess in this AP view or lateral view? You cannot assess. You must go for 3D CT scan with reconstruction. It will give you a clear idea about the joint, and it will help for planning of the treatment. So elbow interarticular fracture, you must do 3D CT scan. It is for adult. Now big joint is hip joint. Hip joint, the pain of the hip joint most commonly, I already told about the children in my previous class. Now we can go and talk about adult. If there is any pain over the hip joint, and patient will just put his hand over this like C, this is called C sign. That means there is osteoarthrosis or any pain over this hip joint. Now most common primary cause of hip pain is osteoarthrosis, though it is very rare. Then ankylosing spondylosis you can occur, or is associated with the hip fracture, avascular necrosis, or any type of muscular pain also occur. But in child less than 4 years, transient synovitis, osteomyelitis, juvenile idiopathic arthritis. Over 4 to 8 years, birth age disease, transient synovitis or septic arthritis, and more than 10 to 16 years in slip capillopulmonary disease, avulsal of the fracture, osteomyelitis, septic arthritis. Now the cause of hip pain generally, if there is any snapping or any impingement, this is called femoroacetabular impingement syndrome. It is most common finding in the adult, in the disparity in the joint movement or any impingement over the series called or snapping hip syndrome also called. Now if there is any inflammatory arthritis, there is the specific pain over the range of motion, and if there is any pain over the flexion, is called iliopsoas bursitis. If you can see there is any fracture over the trauma over this joint, then you have to go for radiological investigation. Now is some bursitis around the hip. If there is over this trochanter, is called trochanteric bursitis. If there is a lesser tubercle, this is called iliopsoas bursitis. And sometimes you can see tenderness over the ischial tubercle, this is called ischial ischiogluteal bursitis. Okay, and for radiological examination, you have to know what is the normal hip. See, this is the normal congruity of the femoral head, and this is the normal circular structure. This is the normal bony trabecule. This is the normal joint space. This is the teardrop, medial teardrop. And when you are assessing any hip X-ray, you have to assess the obturator foramen. If it is equal, then you think there is no rotation. Okay, this is called ilioischial line, or it is also called Parkin's line. If this if this head or acetabulum floor is invade with this line, this is called protusio acetabuli. Okay, this is called ilioischial line or Parkin's line, and this line is called iliopectineal line. This is called iliopectineal line. Symphysis you all know. Now see this is the scoliosis and collapse along with incongruity of the femoral head. This is but joint space is still remain. This is the significant for avascular necrosis of the femoral head. Okay, scoliosis and collapse, and this is called crescent fracture, and still the joint space is still remain same. In the last phase, the joint space reduce when it affect the secondary way of the acetabulum. Okay, but in osteoarthrosis, the first joint space will decrease subcondylosis, scoliosis, along with osteophytes. I have already told you. Now, if there is joint space reduced with a fuzzy margin with a osteolysis or osteopenia over the both acetabulum, and it is called due to infection, it's called tuberculosis, and there must be an adduction or abduction deformity. You can see that. Now, if due to any operation or in pyogenic infection, if the bony trabecule is continuous with this iliac bone, that is called bony ankylosis, and if this femoral head will subluxated anteriorly to the obturator fossa, then it is called anterior dislocation of the hip. And if this femoral head will dislocated in the posterior part of the iliac fossa or iliac bed outside, that this is called posterior dislocation. Okay, the posterior dislocation is the most common dislocation. This anterior dislocation is very rare, and it may be associated with femoral head fracture. This is called Pipkin fracture, or maybe posterior dislocation may be associated with the acetabulum fracture. This is called Pipkin 5 type fracture. It associated with the acetabular posterior lip fracture. Okay, this is very unstable fracture. You need to do a splinting plate, and I will describe this it acetabular reduction class. Okay, splinting plate, splint plate. It will help to reduce the small fragment. Now, the differential diagnosis of small bone tenderness. If there is any tenderness over the small bone, and they may be associated with rheumatoid arthritis, pseudo gout, gonococcal arthritis, juvenile rheumatoid arthritis, and with swelling, you have to think about. If metacarpophalangeal joint, carpophalangeal joint, then it seems to be rheumatoid arthritis, pseudo gout, and the hemochromatosis also. If first metacarpal joint, then it seems to be osteoarthrosis. Okay, and if the distal phalanx involved, then chance of rheumatoid arthritis is 0%. If distal phalanx involved, we have to think about the nail changes. If there is nail changes occur with the skin changes, this is called psoriatic arthritis, or it can go for SLE, or it can but distal interphalangeal joint never affect in rheumatoid arthritis. Proximal may be happen, but distal joint is not affected by this rheumatoid group of so generally rheumatoid arthritis monoarticular or polyarticular, but spondyloarthropathy, psoriatic arthropathy, reactive arthropathy, inflammatory bowel disease, ankylosis spondylosis are all the most common probable most common diagnosis of all the joint pain. Now, as per the EULAR 2010 protocol, you have to know which are the arthropathy which will treat like a rheumatoid arthritis. When any joint pain cannot explain by SLE arthropathy or psoriatic arthropathy or any HIV arthropathy or any crystal deposition, then that joint pain must be encountered for one large bone or two large bone or 10 large bone or 3 small bone or up to 4 to 10 small bone. You have to count. As per count, they will be counted as a point. More joint, more point. Now, for you have to see the serology. If this RA factor and anti-CCP and RA factor, if highly positive, low positive, or very high positive, as per this positiveness, you will give the number. Okay, and how many days is the complaint is less than 6 weeks or more than 6 weeks. If more than 6 weeks, then it will count a point. And along with acute reactive protein or ESR. If it is low or normal, then okay. If it is very high, then it will count. Now, along with these 4 point: joint distribution, serology, symptoms duration, along with acute phase reactant, you have to mark up this chart, please. And if the count is more than 6, then it seems time to be a rheumatoid arthritis and it needs anti-rheumatoid drug treatment. Okay. Now, DMRT, generally we all know that D-penicillamine and lefonamide and the deflazacort and prednisolone all are the DMRT group. But recently, biological DMRT are used in the market, and this is the most commonly asked question. This is one type of immunoglobulin. See the name only. Okay, adalimumab, it is anti-TNF alpha drug, and if we and then etanercept, then infliximab, and sertolizumab, then golimumab, all are tumor necrosis factor alpha inhibitor, and that can be used IV or subcutaneously, daily doses or weekly doses, which will help for rheumatoid arthritis. Now, recently there is a abatacept. It is also CD80 or 86 or CD228 selective stimulator that can help to inhibit T cell activation. Okay, then rituximab, anti-CD20, then tocilizumab and interleukin 6 inhibitor. Okay, and last is anakinra. Anakinra is interleukin 1 receptor blocker. So all these drug you have to know, and this is used for a biological effect for that rheumatoid arthritis, and this is the novel drug used now. Okay, because all the hydroxychloroquine and the lefonamide and steroid has a multiple side effect. You have to check the eye, you have to check the liver, you have to check the skin, and you have to check the multiple problem. So rather than this side effect of of rheumatoid anti-rheumatoid drug, you can use this drug easily and with the consultation of rheumatologist, and it will help for our the outcome of that patient, and treatment will be lifelong. So why not select this magic bullet actually. Now, just 1 to 2 points regarding the rheumatoid arthritis. Rheumatoid arthritis is stemmed by this type of special type of Z type of deformity in the swan or thumb deformity, most commonly found in the old people with female with rheumatoid hand. Now, why this type of deformity? It actually is a immunological disease. And it is due to excessive angiogenesis. Then the B cell and T cell come in action, anterior progenitor cell, and then activation of neutrophil and macrophage, which is act on the synovial fibroblast along with some interleukin. It can cause activation of the synovial tissue. The hyperactivation of synovial tissue can cause the affect the bare area and the subchondral bone along with the tendonitis effect, and so this deformity is occur. And as so on this immunological problem is going on, the deformity will increase. Now, what are the indications for operation? If the joint is destructed, then we can replace it, or joint wrist or even a big joint like hip and knee is destroyed, then we can replace it. But best treatment for rheumatoid is early diagnosis of the treatment and the follow up with the help of the rheumatologist. Okay, so I think I can cover how you approach any type of joint pain, and please keep in mind, you should not diagnose a rare disease, and you must give your 100% effort to make it very economical. Like you can do aspiration and this knee fusion with a ultrasound guided, or you can tell first do the MRI, first do the USC, all everything. But if you clinically can diagnose a case of knee fusion and you can go by aspiration, that will help our poor patient, and that will help give a quick result. So for keep confidence, keep on building up your confidence. You have to know the normal anatomy along with the pathology and the new updates. And I think you can go through the book again, and I am quite confident you can do answer all type of joint pain. Thank you.